What's up, prospects? Coach Mandi, Coach Robby. We got a couple of minutes until time to kick off, but we're going to give everybody a couple of minutes to jump on. If you haven't already, go ahead and make sure as soon as you get hopped on, go ahead and comment. Let us know who's watching. Let us know where you're from. If you have any questions along the way, please make sure and put those in there. Some of the best feedback we've gotten so far from Turn by Turn has been those of you that are taking the time to put a question in the comment section, and then those people that we have on answering those questions while they're on the show. So again, we'll give everybody a couple of minutes to jump on. Episode 3 technically of Turn by Turn. Got a special guest today, so just give us a couple of minutes and we'll get everything kicked off. While we're waiting for people to jump on, do any of the rest of y'all see the advertisement down the middle of our Facebook Live?
I took it off.
I just noticed it.
It's still showing.
And hopefully I don't get a letter from Nissan, but for those of y'all that know me, you know that I do not drive a Nissan and I will never drive a Nissan. Oh, it's gone now. We're going to call that a fake punt. Since we're waiting for the kickoff, we're going to call that a fake punt. What's going on, Amanda? We got Elgin in the house. I guess y'all are getting a bunch of rain over there right now too, huh?
Hi, Nikki.
Oh, is Nikki on here?
Nikki's always on.
We're going to surprise Nikki and turn around and all of a sudden activate her camera. Oh, Mandi, you're Sydney's fave.
I know. I get that a lot.
Is it the comparison thing? Kind of like offering you a fresh apple versus a rotten apple? Like Mandy's your fave when the other option is me? Is that what you're saying, Sid? That's not really a fair comparison. All right, guys. Hey, we got 6:30, so we'll go ahead and get started. We are actually going to, just like we promised in the very beginning of Turn by Turn, we're not camera people. We're not tech people. We're scouts. We're coaches. So we're learning a lot about this as we go. The bottom line is it wasn't meant to be flashy. Turn by Turn was not meant to be flashy. It was meant to bring you the best of the best information, because there's so many sidetracked rumors out there about how to do this, how to do that, what's true, what's false. That's the reason that every single show I make sure that I bring Mandi over here, because if there's one person that the years and years of coaching in college, she's my reference point. If I'm not 100% sure about something, I go to Coach Mandi about it. And so, like I said, it's not going to be flashy. We are not the tech people. We're not going to have the boom boom music to wait until we get started. That's not us. But what we are going to do is, we're going to try to make sure that we listen to what y'all are telling us each show and try to improve each show. And with today's show, what we're actually going to try to do is, in the past, just like I normally do in the past, I've tried to cram too many things into one show. And because of a couple of hot topics that we had to cover today, we're actually going to do our best not to cram too many things. We have a couple of hot topics, and then we have a very special guest that we want to bring in and kind of fill y'all in on some of the stuff that we've learned over the last couple of days. Did I miss anything?
No, we just want to keep it simple, stupid, the kiss staring. we want to be great at a few things and versus trying to smash all of that information into one show. So that's what we're here to do, is help you all out.
So the first part we wanted to make sure and cover with you guys, because this isn't going to apply to everyone right now, because not everybody is doing it, but high school softball. Right now, 75-80% of states are playing high school ball in the spring. We understand you got, certain states, Georgia and some of the other ones that play it, in the fall. And then you've got Iowa that plays it during the summer, But 75 to 80% of the states out there play high school ball in the spring. Regardless of when your high school ball is, there has always been the question, and inevitably there'll probably always be the question, should I play high school ball? I've noticed, and me and Mandi were actually laughing about it, that's the reason we changed the first topic for today, was every year around the start of high school ball, everybody starts posting that article from that, I don't even remember who wrote it, but it's somebody who knows nothing about softball. College coaches are not coming to your high school games. It is the biggest load of bull hockey I've ever heard in my life, okay? Me and Mandi were talking about it because, based on what I've seen over the years, and then based on what I've seen just over the last couple of weeks, I also want to know, from Mandi's perspective, when you were a coach, this, that, and the other, in the last week, I've had 10 different college coaches go watch prospects of mine at a high school game. A couple of them were high school scrimmages. 5 of them ended up with offers because of it, because they performed. A couple of them ended up with visits. A couple of them were high school coaches that had already made it known to those kids, we want you, we're going to offer you. And they were basically just giving FaceTime to reiterate to those kids that I want to make sure that y'all know how bad I want you because I'm coming to watch you play high school ball. That being said, one of the things like me and Mandi were talking about, that doesn't mean that every college coach in the nation is going to watch high school ball. Bottom line there is, if I want something bad enough, I'm going to go get it. Let's call it what it is. I think about food 90% of the time. So earlier we're walking through and I, of course the wife is cooking barbecue chicken. And I see a pizza box. What clicks in my head? Barbecue chicken pizza. And so I tell Mandi, I've got this craving for barbecue chicken pizza now. If I truly wanted barbecue chicken pizza bad enough, I'm gonna go find it. Yeah, I'm gonna go find it. And it doesn't matter if I have to drive 2 hours at 11 o'clock at night. If I want it bad enough, I'm gonna go get it. And the college coaches, for the most part, are the same way. And I want to stop some of y'all right now on what you may be thinking. Those coaches that have went and done that have been, JUCO coaches, or they've been NAIA coaches, or they've been D3 coaches. No, if you took all of those 10 that I just talked about over the last week, they were spread among the board. I mean, up to the point where one of them, without saying too much, is a top 10 Division I program, but made sure to send their pitching coach to go check out this pitcher. There's a lot of things that go into it as well. They're not just going to, I found out about a kid at one point and I'm going to go check this out. No, that's a kid they've been following, right, that they've known about, and they're trying to figure out, can I seal the deal before she gets to summer, right?
Right. Absolutely. And let me preface this by saying it has to work in the college coach's schedule. They're in season right now. And my focus when I'm in season is my team and my kids. So that's my focus. If it worked in my schedule, I would get out. It would typically towards the end of the season. It really wasn't in the beginning. And it depended on where the kid was at on my board. Yeah. If this is a kid I really wanted, oh yeah, I'm probably going to show up. Yeah. But if it's early on, probably not yet. So it just depends. And so, if it worked in my schedule, because the honest truth is I'm in season 2. College coaches are in season 2, so it's really difficult when we play 12 games a week to go see you, scrimmage or play one time.
Yeah. And my key to that is you can almost bet where people's opinions fall. They're the ones who are sharing that post, that article and I can't remember, it's one of those online recruiting crap, Placed or something.
I think it is Placed.
Yeah, something like that. But they college coaches are not coming to your high school games. Well, probably not if you're the one that's representing them. But that's not my problem. That's your problem. So I hate to be that way, but, is there any college coach in the nation going to tell you that they only do high school ball? No. But it does not matter if they're in a cornfield with a bunch of cow patties laying around. If the college coach wants to see you bad enough, they're going to figure out a way based on their timeline. Just not too long ago, had a coach that needed a transfer kid, and the kid had been released, and the kid ends up, they went to a facility, and it was a catcher, and they had a pitcher show up and throw random pitches to be able to see this kid, and then throw some BP to him, and boom. You know, now the coach had to turn it in and everything else, but my point to that, whether it's FaceTime, whether it's high school video, whether it, you know, are those coaches going to watch Division II in Arkansas or 2A in Arkansas? Probably not. At the same time, when we start talking about some of the power in 4 and definitely your powers in 5, and then your 6 and 7As, yeah, because you can pretty much bank that 3/4 of the kids on that team that made that team are elite travel ball kids.
I mean, I think regardless if the college coach is going to be there or not, you play like they are. You never know who's watching and who's going to take it back to that coach. As a college coach, if the kid, let's say I am recruiting a player and it just doesn't happen to work out for me, because it's a small circle, I'm going to know another coach that you might fit best for them. And so just because I'm watching you and they can't, I'm going to give that coach feedback. So it doesn't, you know, somebody's always watching.
Yeah. And I mean, and my point, I guess the cap or the cherry on top of that, me and Mandi were talking about it earlier, between mid-January through the end of February, I'll bet my college coach communication kicks up by 50-75%. Partly because they're in season, recruiting doesn't stop, recruiting doesn't slow down, it continues, but they're in season. They still need to get it done. They still need to find out about this kid and get updates. They need to continue to grind, but the number one focus has to be on their team. Much harder to recruit to a losing team than a winning team. So the number right?
That's true.
the number one thing they have in their back pocket is their win-loss record, and so, or the number one thing killing them in recruiting is a win-loss record. But my point to that is, everything is situational, and just like I have always said, recruiting is an individual journey.
Absolutely.
So
it's as unique as each kid.
Yes.
It's as unique as each player is. What camp she needs to go to isn't going to be the same camp. What school Mary can look at because of her ACT score is going to differ than what Sarah can look at. It's as unique as each kid.
And for those of y'all that think, oh, well, even though I'm at a bigger school, it's not going to apply to me because I have a football coach coaching my softball team. Trust me, that part doesn't matter. Oh, he's got me playing out of position, you know, whatever. Trust me, that part doesn't matter. As long as you're very obvious about everything to the college coach, you should be fine. If you want to find out about college coaches being able to come watch your high school games, talk to those of y'all that do have NSR, that are NSR kids, talk to your scout and find out. Find out. I can tell you right now, a list of kids that are scheduling their visits and contemplating their offers just from high school ball getting started. Anything else on that?
No, I'm ready for hot topic number 2.
Oh boy. So I'll let you introduce this one.
Or actually, it's hot topic number 3 or 2 or 3, either way. So a lot of what's been happening lately is I'm seeing an influx of, I don't know a nice way to put it, but parents that aren't staying in their lane. You know, there's a part of the recruiting process in the comparison stage. Parents, you play the ultimate role for your kid's recruitment. So in saying that, there's a lot of times where you guys make or break it. You know, how do you keep your kid on the coach's list? You gotta you play a part in it. It's not just whether your kid's good enough and has the ACT scores and all of that other stuff. It comes down to, do I as a college coach want to deal with you as a parent? And what are you doing to help or hinder your player's recruitment?
And I think the biggest thing is take it back to simplify, right?
Yeah.
What's the name of the show?
Turn by turn.
Turn by turn. Where did that come from? We talked about it in episode 1. We'll elaborate again. The GPS metaphor. I can sit in the passenger seat and be the GPS, giving the kid turn-by-turn directions to get to where she wants to go. Mom and Dad can sit in the back seat and be the best backseat riders you've ever had. But none of us 3 can drive the car. Only the kid can drive the car. And what we're seeing, and it's nothing new, but what we're seeing more so is the parents, and trust me, parents that care about their kid, I love it. That's like we were talking about. That's why we don't just automatically deter away from them. We try to educate them up front. And sometimes it takes a second phone call and sometimes a third phone call to really think things through on, can these parents be taught what their role is? Because a lot of people, even us as scouts, a lot of people have the mistaken identity that, oh, we need an in-star scout because they handle everything from top to bottom. That's not the case. What we know, and what she knows from being a college coach, what I know in my years of scouting, every college coach has their own timeline on which they want to be introduced to the prospect. If a coach texts me this morning and says, I need a 2021 center fielder, I need her to be this big, need her to be this size, these are the academics we're going to need eventually. Well, automatically, I've got 2 or 3 kids in mind, I send it over to him and let him make the decision. Here's what I got on him, this, that, and the other. If you pick 5 different coaches, one of them is automatically going to say, hey, Robbie, do me a favor and tell all of them to shoot me an email with this, this, and this. One of them is going to turn around and text me the rest of the afternoon asking me questions about each one of the kids. One of them is going to go quiet for the next 3 or 4 days because he's doing some investigating on social media, from calling pitching coaches and hitting coaches. Every one of them are going to handle it differently, and every one of them is to them at a different point in time, if that makes sense. Are we still good? Okay. Sorry, cameraman got a little panicked. So my point to that is, are parents an integral part of the process? Absolutely. You are still the parents. You are still their blood. But if college coaches aren't recruiting high school players that are going to be college athletes, they're recruiting college athletes that are playing high school sports. So if we're wanting them to think like an adult, we're wanting them to handle their business like an adult. If Sally is supposed to send Coach Joe an email, Sally needs to type it up. If Sally wants to say, hey, Mom, will you proofread this for me? Great. Let her proofread it. Hey, babe, actually, this is this, and that's that. Do this punctuation. But other than that, you're good. Good job. But aside from that, let's be honest. Every one of your kids know more about email and tech than you do. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, my wife can tell you, even me, when I switched from, back in the day, when I switched from BlackBerry to iPhone, I think she was 5 or 6 at the time, I had my daughter Madison teach me how to use the iPhone. So every one of us know, your kids know how to get into their email, know how to send their email, know how to do the other stuff. You going and checking their email and then turn around and deleting it because you don't think that one's going to be a good fit, I'm going to be the first one to say it. Not your job. Not your job.
Stay in your lane.
Stay in your lane. Bottom line. Parents, the biggest reason I'm telling you that is for 2 reasons. The college coaches want the kid to own the process. And this is going to blow your mind, but some of, and one of them is actually watching right now, and hopefully he doesn't hate me, but one of the best parents I've ever had is Gilbert Ornelas. And Lacey Ornelas' dad, travel coach, guy knows how to handle his business, but he doesn't. He tells Lacey, hey, that's your business. You tell me when you need my help on something. And he stays out. Lacey handles all of her own business. Same thing with the other girls on his team because he's talked to them about the same thing. And so, whether it's Tater or whether it's Lacey, I know that if I text her about something, she may have to say, oh, let me check dates with my dad. Hey, perfect. But at the same time, I'm not texting him, hey, will you send an email for Lacey to da-da-da-da? I'm texting Lacey, hey, this coach asked about her and wants her to do this and this. And then Lacey texts back, hey, I got it done, coach. That's the kid owning the process.
Absolutely. And I think ultimately, as a scout, I am setting you up for success at the next level. I'm asking you to do things in a timely manner with deadlines because that's exactly what college coaches are going to. It's the same process when you get to the next level. So if you can do it with us and with me, you are going to be set up well, far and above the rest of the recruits that are coming in for that coach. There's going to be deadlines for them. And guess who handles it at the next level? The athlete. So that's what parents, we want you to be supportive and we want you to be engaged. But understand ultimately it is the player that has to own the proactive process. You can't save them from everything.
And it happened within the last 2 weeks. Within the last 2 weeks, there has been one kid that was released from a team. Obviously, her scholarship will continue through May, but has been released off of a team because in the fall, and this is a freshman coming in, but in the fall, she didn't get the mound time that mom and dad thought she deserved. So the coach told me, Robby, I'm not overestimating. I was getting contacted by them at least 8 times a week, and some of it was text, phone call, emails from those parents because they didn't think she was getting the mound time that she should. And oh, by the way, she plays other positions, this, that, and the other. And the coach said, Robby, I didn't recruit her to play other positions. I recruited her to pitch. So now the spring has come in, and they gave her a little bit of time, and she got tore up from the floor up, so they pulled her. They gave her another shot. She got tore up from the floor up, so they pulled her. So the parents end up sending something to the coach. You know, you didn't let her fight through it. You forgot. It takes her longer to get warm than other people. This, that, and the other. So he goes to the kid and says, hey, I need you to talk to your parents and let them know that I don't want to hear from them anymore. If they need to convey something, they need to convey it to you, and you decide if it's something to convey to me. The kid, and this is what sealed the deal with the coach. The kid told Coach, I've told them 1,000,000 times, and they don't listen to me. That's why they're just going to keep doing that until they ruin my future. So he basically released her. She's not going to be dressing out the rest of the season. And, hopefully in May she ends up finding something else. On the other end of that, a recruit. This is the last thing I'll say about it. A recruit. There's this big-time pitcher that I saw at a camp not too long ago. Big left-handed pitcher, knows how to bring it, and I fall in love with the kid. And then when I get into conversation with the parents about the kid, and then they start, telling me, oh, she's got this and she's got that. Oh, okay. Well, then I happen to be in conversation with a certain coach, and then when I talked to him, he said, yeah, we actually just pulled her offer. Like, okay. And I don't dive in because that's not my business. Not an NSR prospect and not my business. And then he tells me, yeah, I ended up finding out that she was trying to use our offer just to get other offers. And I'm like, okay, well, that's pretty shady. And then he tells me, he says, on top of the fact that as I sat down with my coaching staff, we realized that out of the 6 months of recruiting her, we've only talked to her on the phone once, but we've talked to mom and dad 12 times.
There's your sign.
Yeah, and I laughed. I'm like, hold up, you keep track of that? And he said, oh, yeah. He said, each kid who's a recruit, we have a file on them, and we keep track of everything. And he said, we went through it, and we've heard from mom and dad 12 different times, sometimes on the same day, but we've only heard from the kid once, and that's when we had her call us to make the offer. So that gave them a sign.
Why am I not shocked?
Yeah, and so naturally he backed out. We'll come to find out, a couple of the other offers, those coaches talked to that coach. It was the same scenario. They pulled out too. And I hate it for the kid. She's not one of my kids, but I hate it for the kid. But I see the trail that's leaving, and the reputation that is there now. And it stinks for a teenage girl, but like he said, the teenage girl's sweet as can be, but no matter what, it would take too much effort to get mom and dad to understand their role. And so, to finish that off, guys, parents, I'm a parent. I understand wanting to micromanage your kids. But I've also learned the hard way, and some of y'all will learn too. You're better off taking a step back. Don't take your hands completely off the bicycle. Just take a big step back and keep one hand on the seat. That way she thinks she's pedaling on her own, and that way she can get her balance going. She's no longer afraid to ride without the training wheels. But if the crap hit the fan, you're still there to be able to grab her. So be there as an advisor. Mm-hmm. Be there as the vehicle.
Absolutely.
The money.
Absolutely.
But aside from that,
let them fail. Let them fail. Let them succeed, and be the best support system. Because I promise you, at the next level, when you allow them to do that, they're going to be a better young adult once they get to college. They will understand what time management and responsibility, and how to fend for themselves, how to actually go talk to a coach.
Yeah. I mean,
you'd be amazed at the conversations that kids would have at text, that you need to be in my office having this conversation. So I just think it sets them up for better success at the next level. We're not doing it to be controlling or demeaning in any type of way, but the kids that are involved and proactive in their process are the successful ones. Mm-hmm. And it's usually the ones that have those parents that let their kid, you know.
And that's exactly what it is.
Let their kid run this process.
And so that brings us to the next part, guys. That brings us to the next part. Vanessa, you're on, right? We'll wait a second for Vanessa to, if you want to continue on that.
I was talking about parents. Wow. Okay, so I was at a tournament. Pretty much every tournament or every showcase I go to, if you just stand and listen to the parents that are in the stands, it's amazing at how many recruiting experts there is. It's like,
I know that's right.
Look, y'all, I bought a house in the last year, and so I've gone through the process, but that does not mean by any sense of the word that I'm going to become a realtor. You know, again, I know what I'm good at, so it's amazing to me that just because, you know, your kid goes to camp, that doesn't mean camps are for everybody. If you're at the right camp, yeah, but it just amazes me at the lack of education that parents sometimes have about the recruiting process. And then, you know, if you don't know something, I'm not sure why they spend the time, you know, talking about amongst each other. It's, you know.
Yeah. No, that's like, exactly what it is.
You stand there and you hear some things that you're like, no, don't do that.
Well, that's the old golden rule, and it was actually Mandi that told me at one point was, I should never be able to identify who your parents are at the game. You know, and there's sometimes I get parents that'll send me video clips, you know, and they'll say, hey, by the way, ignore the sound. What's the first thing you do? You listen to the sound, we're like, yeah, MFer, that's what I'm talking about. You know, and it's like, whoa, okay. Now I see what we're going with. While we're adding her in, and it may take a minute, she's on there. I can see her right now.
It's not showing her where I can click on her. See if she can click the video button on her side.
And Vanessa, if you can click the video. Give us just a second while Vanessa clicks in. Our camera operator is a little topsy-turvy.
Looking back there.
She's not listed on where I can add her. She's not listed as a live viewer.
Leslie's doing something wrong.
So we're not even really sure if early recruiting in April, that's when the vote is going to be. So we're really not even sure about what's going to take place as far as if it's going to pass or not pass. So really at this point, you know, everything's kind of a moot point.
Well, and that's what me and Mandi were actually talking about earlier, where we actually had decided not to include that in.
Yeah, in today's conversation. Was
because ironically, we were pretty much golden on some of the early recruiting stuff. We believed that everything was going to pass in April. And after Brent brought it up that he didn't believe it would, we actually brought it to a bunch of coaches, and they actually confirmed. There she is. Maybe a little bit frozen.
Oh, we're good.
I don't know what happened.
Those of y'all that don't know, our special guest that we wanted to have on is Vanessa Laughlin, and of course, she, made sure to let me know, that she didn't want me bragging about all of her accolades and everything. Told me she'd kick me in the throat if I did. So, those of y'all that don't know, Vanessa, played at LSU, went to ULL, has now, she played in, what year was it that you played in the Women's College World Series?
2008, to age myself.
Let me turn it up a little bit.
2008.
Okay. And so, those of y'all that don't know, now she is in charge of softball and with Blast Motion. And I know we've talked about it, as technology gets better with everything else, being able to train and monitor our athletes becomes more pertinent. And that's where, we've seen things come and go, and as we've kept a close eye on it, and to be honest, me and Mandi have investigated the heck out of them. We've fallen in love with Blast, and as we started to figure out, not only does it's just like anything, and like we talked about before, my previous life as a strength coach and personal trainer, hard to believe right now, but if you can't measure anything, you can't track progress. You can't just say, well, hey, you look better. People want to know how many pounds they've dropped, what percentage body fat they've dropped. People want to be able to put a number or put a measurement to success. And that's where Blast comes in, I know, Vanessa, before I go on too much talking to, and filling everybody in on why I love your resume, tell us a little bit about Blast Motion. Like, we've noticed a lot of the major league, minor league, MPF, even some of the elite college coaches that I've went to for hitting advice have told me that they're now using it. So, like, those who are viewing that don't know about Blast Motion, what do we need to know?
Yeah, it's a great question. Before I answer it, can you guys hear me okay? I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I think there's a couple things. I mean, I think from an industry perspective, I think that one of the things that's important for people to maybe take into consideration and recognize is that there's a paradigm happening in our industry right now, and it's a cross between sports and technology. And Blast is just really lucky to be at the forefront of that movement, but it's happening rapidly. And so the sooner that you start embracing technology in sports, I think that, the more successful a lot of these different sports, not just softball, will be. But with Blast in particular, I think that if there's one thing that I could maybe impress upon the audience, it's that Blast Motion is not just a motion sensor. We have a motion sensor. It is very accurate, and it's a really sophisticated technology, and it provides really insightful metrics. But if it's just the sensor, it's just data, it's just numbers, it's just algorithms. And so Blast's real value comes into the management of that data and the ability to transform it into insightful information. And we do that a couple of ways, right? We do it through an app like Facebook, like your Facebook app that gives you access to that information real time and mobile access. But we also give it to you in a back-end cloud-based web portal, similar to like logging into facebook.com, with more robust tools and insights into the analytics, the trending, the video suite, and really getting into the nitty-gritty of the data that the sensor just happens to collect. So our elite prospects, our elite partners, the one that you mentioned, like the NPF, like these Division 1, Division 2, Division 3 NCAA schools, are elite travel organizations and hitting academies. These partners of ours recognize that value and have decided to make a long-term investment in the storage of the data and the investment in the information overall long-term, and not necessarily just the motion sensor.
And that actually drove me into my next question. One of the things that me and Mandi were talking about, if I get a email this morning with a request to go scout this kid, if they, she's a 2021 pitcher and she goes to the school and plays for this team, okay, but then at the same time, if they turn around and tell me, hey, she's this, she throws this, does this, it gives me validated metrics, because like we talked about earlier today, no offense to some of the other people out there that try to do it on their own, but if you turn around and telling me that this kid had a 1.6 top time and ran a 2.2 home to first, yeah, I'm sorry, but if that kid exists, good gosh, let's get her on video and let's get her all over the news site. But it does, now that I've had a couple of kids send me, hey, here's my blast metrics. And there is, you can't really fudge those. You can't really lie. And so, like I explained to them, telling me, when I look at it, it tells me that the kid has a 62-mile-an-hour ball exit. I'm in love, because you didn't lie to me like your teammate did and turn around and tell me you had a 70, because I know what 70-mile-an-hour ball exit looks like, and that ain't 70. So in terms of not just what they're doing, but some of the younger kids, like right now, there's a lot of 2023s and even 22s that have reached out, and it's not that we're saying no, it's that we're saying not right now. Keep me updated with progress over the next 6 months and stuff. Why is that so important?
Yeah, I mean, if you just take into consideration like the experience that I had before I joined Blast Motion, right? I spent the first 10 years of my career in corporate America working in financial services with Fortune 500 companies. And I couldn't name one off the top of my head that is not leveraging data and analytics and long-term storage of information to understand their customers and their own business better. And whether people want to believe it or not, sports is a very large industry, softball and baseball in particular in the US. And so, the idea that we've been a little bit behind the ball, so to speak, in kind of embracing something that's available to us that could make us better is prohibiting us from taking a quantum leap forward in the improvement of our sport overall, right? So the interesting thing to me is that it's a little bit less about looking at a metric in real time and going, her bat speed is 70 miles an hour, great, right? It's more about making the investment now in a 12U player who can continuously collect swing after swing after swing over a very long period of time. Maybe we flash forward 4 years and she's a 16U player now, and she's actively being recruited by collegiate coaches, and she can now show them objectively, to your point, right? Not something less objective like batting average that could be, could vary depending on the quality of pitching you're facing, but something very objective in her swinging mechanics to validate the investment they're thinking about making in this athlete. The only way you can do that, though, is by investing in the technology so that you can collect those metrics, and investing in the ability to store the information, which we do through Blast Connect, so that you can continue to look at those trends and those central tendencies and the improvements that you've made over time, right? If you wanted to know in America something as simple as, who likes Coke or Pepsi better, do you ask 10 or 10 million people? Do you ask them over a 1 year period or a 10-year period? For me, I would probably trust the findings of that study if it had been done over a 10-year period and a lot of people had been asked. And the reason for that is because the data gets more and more accurate the more of it that you have. And the same is true with what Blast is trying to do for athletes in the recruiting process today. It's probably something similar to what you guys are doing. I mean, do you guys go out and recruit and scout an athlete for one game, or do you go and watch her multiple times to make sure that the information that you're gathering and providing to the coaches who are interested in that player are insightful and accurate?
Totally not fair. While the wife has this, cutting out Cokes and trying to eat right, and here you are talking about Coke and Pepsi. Totally not right.
Earlier.
I know. Now I'm hungry and thirsty. now I know I need to go to CC's or Papa John's or something, and I expect to get a check from CC's for saying that.
Okay, well, maybe we'll say water or Gatorade instead. Is that better?
Exactly. So the golden question, which wasn't even really part of a topic, but everybody, whenever I talked about Blast, they asked me. So everybody knows over the years there have been, and I'm not going to name any other companies. You're more than willing to, or welcome to if you want to. But I know from our perspective, not just scouting, but in running team workouts and doing combines, we have invested in some of those other companies. And next thing you know, within 2 combines, their stuff tears up. And then next thing you know, like one time the app was down and was going to be down for a month. Well, we had 2 combines in that month. So we ended up, of course, doing as much as we could manually. But, it blew my mind that when we reached out to them, you know, of course, we ended up with a 1-800 number. Nobody cared. We had already paid for their product. They didn't care that it tore up within 2 or 3 times of use. They didn't care. So they quickly earned a name with the college coaches, you know, that they didn't care about metrics that came from that because it was unreliable. But we're not getting that with Blast. The Blast stuff is lasting. The Blast stuff is very easy to access. Like that, you know, in terms of the old products, you know, including the yellow one. Now that we move forward to, you know, the industry leader with Blast, you know, what's the difference?
Yeah, it's a great question. Probably the most important one that I can answer, you know, over time to the folks that we talk with, coaches that we talk with. You know, I think that my opinion is that Blast is kind of the classic story of the tortoise and the hare. We made a conscious decision the first few years of our history to invest in our engineering, in our development of our product, in order to make sure that it was the most accurate, the most durable, the most easy to use. And then we backed all of that by protecting our IP, our intellectual property, with patents, so that we owned that technology. So some of our competitors maybe been a little bit quicker to market, if you will, but that investment, that initial investment in the technology itself, has paid dividends for us. And so today, you know, we're at a really strategic place to really be able to offer a product that is exceptionally superior and more reliable than what the market has known in the past. More importantly, I think that the biggest differentiator that Blast has is to the point I mentioned earlier, which is our management of the data, our ability to transform it into insightful information. We had and have an obligation to make sure that we're able to give the information back to our coaches and our athletes and our parents in a way that is easy for them to digest and applicable to how they can develop and get their athletes recruited long term. You know, our people at Blast are our former athletes. We're forward thinkers, we're super competitive, and we share a common goal in improving. And so with that common goal driving all of us forward, we just do exceptional things. The same way that, you know, you watch college softball teams win the World Series, and, you know, you hear them talk about, it was about a common goal. We shared it. We were fighting for the same thing. And Blast really has that camaraderie going for us. So it's a really fun place to work, and a really great environment to be in. And I think that it's really just the tip of the iceberg for us right now. So it's exciting times.
Absolutely. Well, and kind of like we talked about earlier, like, I know, you know, with Major League Baseball, with the NPF, with a lot of the college teams, you know, and then I know like some of the facilities that have, you know, multiple travel teams in their organizations. I know that's been a lot of the people who have picked up initially, but like for those people who are watching, you know, the parents who are watching and the kids who are watching, like, what is their next step? If they, you know, because I know, like we talk about it all the time, we have a lot of our prospects parents that'll, you know, ask us, you know, hey, when she's doing her stuff at home, she wants to know, is there anything else that can help her continue to do this and this? What do they do? What's their next step?
Yeah, so we have the same type of technology and solution that's applicable to the scenario that you just mentioned. The ability to store the data long term and have access to Blast Connect. The premium features that we offer in the app is all available to the data in a team environment, because it gives the coaches to really tap into their entire roster and you know, keep players accountable and make sure they're getting that extra work in, but then also qualifying that extra work and making sure that it's in the direction that's in line with their hitting philosophies or the goals, or within the goals that that individual player is trying to achieve, right? If the players that you have in your portfolio today are aspiring Division I athletes, but with all of the work that they put in, their metrics are qualifying them in the D2 benchmark, one of two things can happen. Either you put in the extra work, you invest in a hitting coach that can help you improve where your inefficiencies are, or maybe you level set your expectations and you could go be a phenomenal Division II player. You could be an All-American. You could compete for a national championship, and there's nothing wrong with that. We're talking about the elite of the elite getting Division I scholarships. And it's not an environment for everyone, but our technology can really help you either one, figure out how can I improve to get to the goal that I want for myself, or, maybe my expectation should be focused somewhere else.
Well, and of course, I'm going to walk a fine line in how I say it, but one of the things me and Mandy were talking about, and you almost touched on it a little bit. Does this, in all eventuality, help filter out some of those hitting coaches who essentially have an area to be able to watch people hit off the tee, but as far as actually knowing what they're doing, will this help filter those out?
Yeah, to be honest, I think that there are some coaches out there who would be intimidated by the information that we're able to provide, because they would look at it and have no idea how it applies to the swing, or more importantly, how the body moves. It's less about the swing and more about how the body moves. A swing is not universal to every athlete. Take the two of you, for example. You have strengths and weaknesses in different places. And so what we try to encourage our coaches to understand is that we are not trying to create robots. We're not saying that every Division I All-American athlete is going to have, their bat speed at 75 miles per hour, their attack angle at 7 degrees, and so on and so on and so on. We actually encourage not teaching to the metrics, but rather using the metrics to validate and objectify whatever their philosophy is for what they're teaching to that individual athlete. And I know that can be a backwards way of thinking it, but the customers that we have who are most successful with leveraging our technology are doing it that way. They're just using their philosophies, they're using their knowledge, they're looking at their athletes and analyzing them individually for their own strengths and weaknesses, and then just leveraging our objective information that we can provide as reinforcement for that message.
So Vanessa, I got a quick question. You've had a lot of growth and a lot of success lately. Kind of what's on the horizon? What's next for you guys? What's next for Blast coming up in the next months or years? What's kind of on the horizon?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think right now our primary focus is on establishing and building our castle here in the U.S. Believe it or not, we've been out to the softball market for less than a year. I'm fortunate in the sense that baseball kind of had a jump start on me. And so we've really been able to learn from their failures and their successes and kind of get through that learning curve faster, which has been really great for us in the softball channel. But we certainly have a lot of work left to do here in softball, in particular in the US. I know that we have tremendous growth on the horizon. With that being said, I think that there's, a natural curiosity to assuming Blast does all of the things that it needs to do here, to possible expansion into other areas of the world. I think that more importantly, being able to keep in mind that Blast's goal is about improving human movement. And we have extraordinary technology and really smart engineers and developers on staff who are helping us achieve that goal. So without getting too in the weeds of that, I think that it's a little self-explanatory, but we definitely have big, exciting things on the horizon. And like I said, it's really just the tip of the iceberg for us right now.
Would you do us one last favor, and before I forget, if we do get off of here, will you comment in the comment section with the Facebook page, with the website? That way that, because I know following the show is when I'll get text and private messages, hey, so as an individual, how do I get this for my daughter? What's my next step? Would you mind commenting in the comment section with that stuff? That way they know where.
Yep, of course.
And so, curveball for you. And I know you're going to laugh and you may not want to answer.
Okay. I'm scared. I'm really scared right now.
Early recruiting.
Okay.
You've been through the process.
Yeah.
You went through it at the same time as me. Things were a lot different. But you've also stayed involved over the years as a previous D1 coach, doing everything that you've done. What's your feelings? Do you like it, dislike it? Do you think it's going to pass? Do you not think it's going to pass?
Yeah. So I'm only speaking from my personal opinion here. I'm all for the change. I signed the petition. I can't speak from a parent's perspective and how awesome it must be to know that your child's achieving a scholarship that they've put a lot of financial backing into helping them get. But I can tell you that as a player, if I had to play and perform in the environment that exists for these young players today, I probably wouldn't even get a scholarship offer. Personally, I really didn't even hit my stride until I was 15, 16 years old. You know, I remember I was fortunate enough that I had a coach that was molding us for scholarship offers. I was in my first travel ball team in 12 and under, and I missed a hit and run sign. And after the game, he yelled at me for, you know, missing the sign and leaving my teammate out to dry, and told me that if I was going to make mistakes like that, I'd never get a Division I scholarship. And I got in the car with my mom after the game, and I said, Mom, what's a Division I scholarship? And she said, oh, honey, like, don't, Mike is he's just thinking forward for you. Like, just keep going out and playing for the love of the game. And my fear is that some of that is lacking today. I think that if you asked a lot of athletes out there, if you looked at them and said, if I told you today you weren't going to get a scholarship offer, would you come to practice tomorrow? And my fear is that a lot of them would say no. And that breaks my heart. I've always played the game because I love it. I'm back in this industry because all I want to do is help the sport improve. I want to give back for all the things that it gave me. And if we can alleviate some of that pressure on these young athletes to just go back out and play for the love of the game, I think it could really help us get there.
Well, and one side question so that I don't forget, which that was about as perfect of an answer as you could have gave with this side.
Okay.
Like I heard Kumbaya being sung the entire time, but it was perfect. But my question, which actually came from Jamie and Gary Guthrie, it's actually Gary Guthrie. And I'll preface the question from him by, you know, Gary is the father of one of my 2021 pitchers that's committed to Oklahoma. And yes, the kid can match the ball, but, you know, he's asking, is this for hitting only, or is there anything for pitching? He missed a portion of the talk, and I'm sure you get asked this a lot. I know a lot of people have said swing analysis, but now I think, you know, from a, you know, biomechanical aspect, it seems more like motion analysis. Well, is there a method with blast to help a pitcher?
Not today, but like I said, our goal is not to necessarily improve swing mechanics. That is our goal, but if you ask anybody at Blast what our ultimate vision is, our goal in the future, it's to improve human movement. So that's definitely something that's on the horizon for us. It's nothing that's ever out of sight. Today, it is a sensor that goes on the bat, but who knows what tomorrow holds.
Gotcha. So if you need a test dummy, I know one.
Okay, awesome.
Gary's one phone call away, and I guarantee you, Emmy will be up for it. So
cool.
Anything else?
No, I just thank you for being on, Vanessa. I appreciate your time and your insights and the growth of Blast. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys have going on in the future.
Absolutely. And if you can,
yeah, thanks.
Please, not just for everybody else, actually. Selfishly, I've been diving around too. So if you can, post in the comments with the links that are pertinent in the Facebook page. I've been watching a lot of y'all social media. I've been playing around through every single angle of your website. I get way too into this, and the wife doesn't like it. All of a sudden she sees it on the bill and goes, what in the world is this? But Absolutely, we've already talked about how to sneak it in there. So
that's great.
Thank you for being on, and guys, we will absolutely have Vanessa back on. Those of y'all that don't know, and she may not like me for saying it, Vanessa is like us. She's not the camera person used to it, but tell somebody with a resume like her, that's who I don't want. And hopefully nobody shoots me for saying this. I don't want an engineering guy trying to sell me some software, trying to tell me why I should use some software. I want somebody who's played at Lafayette, played at LSU, played in the Women's College World Series, that vouches for it. So thank you, Vanessa, for everything, and we look forward to having you back on. And that's all we have for now, guys. If you still got comments, comment in the comment section. If you got questions for Vanessa, comment in the comment section of Vanessa, whether it's Vanessa, Coach Mandi, or this good-looking guy. We'll make sure that we get to it as soon as we get done. But thanks, and we'll see y'all at the next turn.
Thanks, guys. I'll drop it in the comment field for you.